Hello and welcome to MindSpuke. My name is Julian Kai and welcome to a section of the show we are calling Creative Kit. Joining me today, as usual, is Mr. Steve French. Hello, Steve.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And so, just a little bit about why we're calling this Creative Kit. We wanted to do a little show that was sort of based on technology and gadgets and all that sort of tech stuff. YouTube loves a tech show, but we didn't want to do the normal kind of tech show because there's loads of those out there and you can get all that gorgeous stuff elsewhere on YouTube. But we wanted to do something that was much more tied into the whole umbrella theme of this channel, which is creativity. So we thought, well, let's just look at technology, kit, stuff we use or want to use that aids our creativity, helps or maybe even hinders our creativity. I don't know. I'm sure we've both been guilty of buying stuff that we figure might help us or that we want that actually is really just our disease that we have and wanting to buy more gadgets and kit.
Yeah, you kind of get caught up in the sometimes current trend that's going on, and in fact my first choice is loosely linked to a fad that went on fairly recently, so I don't know how quickly you want us to get into the nuts and bolts of this, but
yeah, I mean, is your first choice our first choice, or are you starting with something else?
Actually no, so scratch that. I mean, we can go backwards and I'll come to
I think we'll start. Okay, so yeah, basically what we're going to do, just basically, so this first episode of Creative Kit we are calling Wishlist 2021. Now other episodes will be focusing on specific bits of kit, perhaps looking at it in a little more detail, and how we use that equipment or plan to use the equipment to help creatively, because obviously all these gadgets, all this technology are really only tools for the end result, for the actual creative product you're trying to make. So however fun and enjoyable a piece of technology is, really, they're just tools. So that's what we want to focus on. We thought we'd start off with our wish list. I tended to always do, in the beginning of a year, write in my journal a sort of wish list of stuff I'd like, either a sort of a film camera or something or other, just something, not necessarily planning on getting it, something I'd like if money was no object, or, I usually end up by the end of the year having got these things because I'm a bit like that. And so we thought we'd just look at stuff we'd like, we either want to get or like to get. A lot of my things are certainly things I'd like but probably don't really need, but we'll talk more on that later. Steve and I both share, the first one I think we'll go to and talk about is something we'd both like to get, or I don't know, Steve might need it more than I need it, but so that's the sort of concept of this. So yeah, we should perhaps get stuck in. Perhaps we'll take it. I don't know what Steve's are. Steve doesn't know what mine are other than the first one. So when Steve goes to one of his, I'll be tapping it into the internet and try and bring up a picture of it. But yeah, the first one, Steve, what are we talking about?
We're talking about this Mac Mini M1. Now, I blame Julian entirely for my interest in this computer. I do a lot of editing, and I have a MacBook Pro that is my main computer, and I've always felt, I don't know why, a little sketchy about that, and I haven't had a main desktop computer for a while, so I was in the market for maybe a new desktop computer, and I was just going to get one of the crazily expensive Mac Pros, and then there's this thing that came up about the Mac Mini. I've had a Mac Mini in the past, and they're funky little things, pretty useful, but you're unsure about the power of it, and now there's this new Mac Mini with an M1 chipset in it. I don't purport to know everything about the inner workings of computers, but it's something to do with the replacement of the Intel processor. I believe, I might be wrong, Julian, but I think they've ditched the Intel.
They call it Apple Silicon or something, don't they? So it's like, instead they've moved over from the Intel processors to their own processors that they've obviously worked on, designed and built themselves, and it's supposed to be, really, really good.
It's supposed to be a completely new way of doing things, isn't it? And I looked at some videos about it, and people talking about everything welded onto the motherboard or so. I don't know how computers work, if I'm honest, but it's supposed to shortcut. It's supposed to be a shortcut on the functioning of a lot of things, and so they make this M1 chipset like a really, really powerful thing to have inside the Mac, making it more powerful than the equivalent in an Intel Pentium processor. So
yeah, and there's been lots of great things said about this, isn't there? This little Mac, and I think the Mac Minis have never been the main go-to Mac if you use Macs, which we all do for sort of video editing and photography and all the stuff both Steve and I do in our day jobs. And I think we've never. I worked at a company once that had a Mac Mini. My main computer was a PC, but my colleague had a Mac, so I had a Mac Mini as well, so we could work together on stuff. So I didn't really need the full-fledged Greater box or whatever they were called back in the day, MacBook Pro, iMac Pro, whatever they're called. But yeah, so Mac Minis have never been on the cards, and it wasn't really until recently, and I was part of some forums that for live streaming and stuff like that, and for doing the sort of stuff we do for this channel and YouTube channels, where everyone's just going on about this Mac Mini because they brought out these new M1s. They brought out a laptop and a smaller laptop, a MacBook Air, I think, and a MacBook Pro 13-inch, and this Mac Mini. And people normally wouldn't have given a second thought to the Mac Mini. They'd go for the MacBook Pros or whatever. But people have been doing some tests on them, and apparently this Mac Mini, it's base level Mac Mini. So this is the thing: Mac Minis are much, much cheaper than MacBook Pros, laptops, desktops. You know, the starting price
is hugely attractive, isn't it? When
this is the thing: the starting price here is $699, so under £1,000, considerably under £1,000 for the base model. So that's just 8 gigabytes of RAM. But even that, we've seen some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
With just the basic 8 gigabytes of RAM, was knocking the socks off things and was managing to handle multiple applications, or powerful applications, all at the same time. And just certainly in why I'll be looking at it is to replace my MacBook Pro and move that as a backup machine and have that as my main live streaming, recording, whatever thing. So almost dedicated to using the software we use to do our live streams and do these YouTube things.
We have to kind of caveat this with that. There's is it that not all pieces of software are supported by the M1, and they have this thing called Rosetta. I haven't quite worked out what Rosetta is, but it's like the name suggests, it's a translation thing that allows your piece of. So I use an example. So I don't think Adobe Premiere Pro as yet is supported by the M1 chipset, and so it has this thing inside it, Rosetta, which translates, again, not knowing how things work, translates the Adobe code or whatever into I think it's kind of
it's one of these emulator things. I think it basically emulates the Intel thing. Again, this is what we mean. We're not going to go into the details of tech, of talking specs and all that kind of stuff, because neither of us are really into that stuff. We're more into how is this going to help us creatively and how we're going to use this. But it's new. It's a new chipset, so software are having to do whatever they need to do to their software to make it run on it. But in the meantime, Apple have got this thing called Rosetta, which will allow you to run other software through that. So it's not running natively, it's kind of running through this thing. And apparently, I don't know, I mean, you've done a bit more research on things like Adobe. It's supposed to work very well. It's better if the thing is native, if the software is native, and I presume it will be native soon. It's just, it's only been out a year or two. I don't know how long the Mac Mini's been out.
It's only a matter of time, isn't it? It's just if you're going to rush out and buy one now.
Exactly. That's what they say. They do have to say, of course, a computer is just the brain, and you plug lots of other things into it. So you've got to make sure that all your peripherals, all your extra things, if you use something like a Stream Deck, or if you use something like a Loop Deck, or any of these other things, or a tablet, a Wacom device, you've got to make sure they're all compatible and they have drivers for the M1. So you've got to make sure you upgrade to that. But bringing it, that's so easy just to get carried away with all the tech side of things, isn't it? The spec side of things. But I think certainly as an affordable Mac, I was pricing up another MacBook Pro and it was going to cost £3,000 plus. This could be, around £1,200 once you've got it. You do need to buy a monitor, you do need to buy a keyboard, you do need to, I've learned probably for what I need, buy a decent Thunderbolt dock of some kind, so you've got even more ports, and they could cost £200 for another one of those. So it does all creep up eventually, because you're just buying the box basically. So you are going to end up spending probably
1,500 quid maybe. It's still maybe half the price of what you're looking at for a MacBook, I reckon.
Absolutely. And if it's got the power and does what you need it to do, and it certainly does what I need it to do, and this goes back to the whole need it to do, well, I want one of these, I don't really need one, we're doing this now with my existing kit. In fact, all the things I'm going to talk about today's show are things I don't need, I just like, because they just make things a little smoother and be quite cool. But actually, they're just going to be replacing things I've already got here because I'm already managing to do this. So it's that justification of going, do I need this bit of kit? No, not really. So this is my battle, my constant tech creative kit battle.
Exactly. I think we both have a similar battle, don't we? And it's you kind of have to weigh up whether, because I've got a perfectly well functioning MacBook Pro that does everything I need it to. It doesn't necessarily edit 4K footage particularly quickly, and it seems to have a major issue with the GoPro codec. It really doesn't like that at all. I don't know whether that's unique to Macs or to Adobe or what, but that seems to slow it down. But the fear for me is the planned obsolescence, if that is an actual thing that happens, especially with Macs. My MacBook Pro is now 4 years old, so do I now start worrying about the longevity of the thing, and do I need to get a desktop? I do need one, I think. I personally think this isn't just me justifying it to myself. I've always liked to have a desktop and a laptop, and I think this may be the old-fashioned side of me, but for me, I see the desktop as the thing that I work when I'm at home or in an office and I'm based in one place, and the laptop is just if I need to go out and be mobile and edit elsewhere. Whereas now my laptop is basically, it's what I use whether I'm in or out. It's the main machine I use.
Absolutely.
So I can see a reason to get it personally. And,
yes. Yeah, it's that. I think you do a lot more. That's your sort of living, that side of stuff, and it's my living too. I have an iMac. That's what they're called, the big desktop one. The big monitor iMac, thing. Yeah. I have one of those, and this 13-inch MacBook Pro. They're both great. I love them. I feel like I only got them yesterday, but in fact, I think they are about 7 years old. This is a 2013 MacBook Pro, and this is the thing. I'm using the laptop much more. I mean, I use the desktop when I'm here in the studio. But I'm using the laptop for a lot of things. I'm using the laptop for all this live streaming stuff, which we're doing more and more of. Although I say this live streaming, this isn't live. But this, this online.
When it's a more mobile thing, you don't want to be pulling around an iMac Pro to do all your kind of streaming stuff.
No, absolutely.
To work with a laptop.
And I'm going to use this laptop. And the thing is, this little laptop, I'm really pushing the boundaries of it. I mean, every possible port has got something plugged into it for doing when I'm doing this. And I'm sort of nervous that something I rely on to do all this stuff, so much stuff, is on just one little MacBook Pro. Yeah. And that's still doing this job and still working very well. But if something went wrong with that, I wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff. I could still edit. I could still work on the photography stuff on the desktop. But I use this an awful lot because I'm not always in the studio, And so to have a Mac Mini as my dedicated, machine for this setup, and then use that as a sort of secondary backup to still have part of this setup, but like I use another Mac that I've actually borrowed where I cut to the computer and stuff. That's a different Mac. But my current one would replace that. So it's all.
Julian,
it's not necessarily
Apple.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. We should move on because we've already been chatting for over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We should move on.
So maybe in conclusion, Steve, what about what's the end of that discussion? Purchase, yes or no? I mean, I think for me, I think it's only a matter of time, and it'll be a definite purchase.
I think so, and I think I wait till you've got it and you guinea pig it and try it out. You take the bullets, you take the arrows.
I'll take one for the team.
Yeah, although we'd both be using them for very different things. Because you won't be using it for what I'd be using it for. I mean, I'd predominantly be using it to run all this sort of multi-camera streaming stuff. And
it is supported. Just one final point: it is supported for Ecamm for what you do, isn't it? So whereas it isn't supported for mine, so I'd be interested to see the difference between the functionality of both.
Yeah. I think it's inevitable for me, but it's all about the money. It's still a big expense. All these things are vying for money, and it's like that's probably a good one. But as I say, it's not anything that I really need yet. It's not my bread and butter using that. Whereas it's more of your bread and butter, so you kind of need that. I've still got other computers I can use. So I think I'm still going to hold off for as long as possible, and moving on to the next tech kit that we're going to talk about, I have the same battle with. It's like stuff that would be lovely to have, but I don't need it. It would replace the stuff, but we'll talk about that. So Steve, what's your next thing? And I'll type it in and find it.
Okay, mate. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier on, and it is linked to the crazy fad that happened. I still think of it fairly recently. I know I'm not talking about drones. I'm talking about gimbals. So all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody and their dog was rushing out and getting a 3-axis gimbal, 3-axis brushless gimbal, which I still don't really understand what that is. So I did a similar thing. I lusted after all these videos of this beautifully shot footage, shot on gimbals, obviously in slow-mo, because it all makes it look great. And I went out and got a Ronin, not a Ronin M, which I think was the follow-up, or the Ronin S, I think, which is the small one that Julian and I have. It's the original Ronin, and it's quite a beast. It came in a carry case that was the size of a double-decker bus, and it had lots of bits and pieces on it, and it was quite difficult to balance anything on it, and it was a heavy piece of kit, and I probably used it twice, and then I put it into my carry case and haven't used it again since. I want to, I'm desperate to, and I feel like it was, because it was, I think I bought it second hand for about $1,000.
Was it the Ronin M?
No, I think the Ronin M was the follow-up. They made it lighter,
right.
and carbon fibery, and I think you'll find it difficult online to find images of the original Ronin, because it seemed like they kind of ditched that, but it was the bigger, heavy one. I mean, if you find an image, maybe pop it up, I can tell you whether that is what it is or not. But it was the original Ronin. It was a heavy thing, and like I say, I've been wanting to use it, and I've used it for some projects, but it kills your back. You see all the adverts of people just kind of carrying it around like it's the lightest piece of kit you've ever seen. But no, I shot a very short music video with a friend of mine, and in a 4-minute song, we had to swap the gimbal backwards and forwards 5 or 6 times because it's just too heavy to carry with all the kit on. And that wasn't with a heavy camera on. Anyway, so the piece of kit I've been lusting after to make this piece of kit more useful is basically something called an Easy Rig. It's an Easy Rig. The one I'm looking at is an Easy Rig 8 to 18 kg video. Oh, hello. Oh, yeah. Come on in.
Was it 818?
8 to 18 kg. Yeah, how would you describe it? I'm looking at it on eBay. And basically, let me describe it. It's a backpack with a large metal arm that comes out the back and over the top of your head with a piece of cable that comes from it. It's got some sort of auto pulley on it, and it attaches to your Ronin and takes the strain when you're holding the gimbal and makes the gimbal with a heavy gimbal a more usable piece of kit. And I have a film coming up that I'm shooting with a friend of mine, and he wants to use. There you go. It's something like that. And you can see that guy looks perfectly happy holding all that camera kit. He's not straining. He doesn't look like it's hurting his arms, and he looks like he could hold that all day long, doesn't he?
I mean, I've seen these. They look ridiculous, and you kind of go. I remember when these sort of came out, and I was like, that's just someone knocking something together to try and help take the strain off or anything. And then you watch some behind the scenes of big proper movies, and you see that these guys have these, and you go, oh, they are legitimate things then. Because I was brought up with Steadicams, you know, the proper rigs that strap to your body like that, but it's an arm that comes out the front and attaches to the thing and takes the weight, whereas this goes over the back of your head, which probably makes more sense. I've got that monitor, by the way. It's really rubbish. But yeah,
I've seen people use that sort of thing, and you know, in between takes, they almost take their hands away from the gimbal itself and just let it hang there. I'm sure it's just redirecting the pain from your arms to your lower back. I'm sure that's all it's doing. But you know, that's something I want, and it will make the other piece of kit that I so rashly purchased and got pulled into the whole, you know, gimbal craze. It'll make that more usable, you know. So it's interesting because I went gimbal and Julian went drone, but that's probably another story.
Yeah, and we don't use either of them nearly enough. And so, because I was thinking, would the Ronin S that we've got not take over? I guess this is bigger cameras, isn't it? So this allows you to put you can't really put your Sony cameras on the Ronin S. Exactly.
Yeah. The film we're filming, the guy is using a Canon 300 something or other. Basically, I think everything with the lens on it and with the large camera, because it's quite a large camera. It's about 9 kgs, I think he said, with it all pimped out. So that is quite a weight. You wouldn't put that on the small Ronin that we have.
And that's not an insignificant An insignificant.
That's easy for you to say.
I'm glad I was cut to you for that. Who was saying that? Insignificant cost, is it? I mean, that's still a price. That looked like, I don't know whether that's the right one, but that was like $1,000 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's not the one I'm looking at. The one I'm looking at on eBay is £298.
Oh, well, that's a bit more realistic, isn't it? Then, yeah,
That is more realistic.
And as we say, keep bringing it back. It's not just the gadgets; it's what they can do for us, and that will then open up doors for the actual gimbal you've got and make it much more usable to create that wonderful content.
Yeah. It's just collecting dust at the moment, and I hate when I buy things and it collects dust. So I'm hoping that will make that more usable.
Yeah.
Or it's another thing that will go in a box on the top of the one in there.
This is the thing. I'm terrible at wanting this stuff and then not necessarily having a project to use it for. It should be the other way around. We should be really having so many creative projects that we're doing that would just benefit from having that. And then when you get it, you've got all these projects. It's, it is the way. And speaking of which, my second item, this is something that, again, my items are all really based around my current obsession with the whole sort of live streaming thing, and perhaps YouTube channels, and developing this channel and developing other channels, and just providing, being a content creator and building up some kind of platform, either on YouTube or whatever. I think I think as a kid I've always loved the idea of having our own TV channel, and this is now you kind of can. We have all the equipment, we have the cameras, we have the cameras, we have the and you have the platform. Back when we were young, there were only 4 channels on TV, so we're showing our age. There wasn't YouTube, there wasn't anything, and now there may not necessarily be an audience because everything's saturated, but there is a place we can put shows like this, and we can make shows like this, and they can be as slick as sort of this, with graphics and everything. So I've completely lost my train of thought. Yes. So
you were about to show us your second option.
So my second option is an item that would help with this. I'm slowly building up. You can't really see what's in front of me, but there's lots of equipment that basically makes this happen, and makes live streaming happen, or recording a show like this happen, which we're cutting live. This hasn't been edited afterwards. All this is happening as we go along. And so I kind of like all this technology, and I love and hate it, because I like it all as long as it works for me and it allows me to do this kind of stuff. And I like the fact that it's all working and it's all, so I like the technology, but it's actually the content that you're watching that's the important bit. And at the moment, what I do need as part of all this, is a some kind of mixer, sound mixer. My microphone at the moment is going into a little thing called a Zoom H5, which I might be able to show you.
Up to you.
Yes, so there we go. So this is a little thing here, which is a little field recorder. It's a wonderful little thing, brilliant for going out and about, grabbing audio. You plug a microphone into it down here, and this is going off into a shotgun mic up here. And this handles the microphone, and that takes it into the camera and into the software that's recording all this, and it's great. So it does the job perfectly well, and I'm sure my audio hopefully sounds perfectly well. It could sound better, but I'm not an audiophile. But what a lot of people who have these live streaming sets up, so then instead of that, a little mixer, a little multi-channel mixer that would allow you to perhaps put more mics in if you've got perhaps guests back when we can actually meet up in the studio. This allows two inputs, I think. So I could have a guest in the studio, when all the crazy world COVID thing is over. And so this does the job, which goes back to I don't really need this other thing. But a mixer kind of would be useful when I'm out and doing jobs with this stuff, because this isn't as robust as a proper mixer. You don't have as much flexibility, or if you do need some more inputs. So it would probably be better to have a nice little desk mixer. And everyone, it seems, who uses the software in this setup and the forums that I follow have a thing called the Rodecaster Pro, which is this.
Oh, that sounds great.
Which is
buy it. Based on the name.
It's the Rodecaster. Look at that. Look how lovely that looks. And
that's
actually,
amazing. Yeah.
I've got really mixed views about it, because it's very expensive, and we'll touch on that in a minute. It's very much overkill for what I need, but probably a bit sort of fancy, because actually, this is an all-in-one. If I was a podcaster as well and didn't do these vodcasts or these video things, that would be great, because what it is, it's basically a almost portable podcasting mixing desk. It's got built-in SD card. You can record straight to it. It's got, I think, 4 channels, plus you can a channel for your phone, so your phone will connect with it. So if you have call-ins, it will connect that in. So that is all wonderful for audio recording. It's got 4 headphone sockets, so if you've got 4 people sat around a desk doing a podcast, if they all have headphones, 4 inputs for your microphones. These little pads here.
It's got a more traditional, the level you can fiddle with the levels with the faders and stuff. It's a bit more difficult on the small road that you've got, isn't it? To kind of
I mean, this has got this thing at the top with the meters is a touch screen, so that goes through to all your other EQs and everything like that. So a traditional mixer would have the sliders but have lots and lots of knobs and buttons above it all. This is all in there, your touch screen in there. These pads at the side, this is what sort of annoys me with that, because these pads at the side, you can program music, jingles, sound effects, whatever, so you could hit those buttons. So if you are a little portable radio station, a little portable podcasting outfit, you've got your jingle, your intro, you could just do it all from that, record it straight to the card. Wonderful. So it's brilliant for podcasting. A lot of people are using it for live streaming as well. And this thing is £550, so let's just say that. So it's a considerable amount of money.
That is, wow.
For a mixer.
You could get an easy rig and a half almost for that.
I could buy a Behringer mixer or a Yamaha mixer for 150 quid, which would have probably 4 or 8 channels. It would have all the EQs, all the knobs and whistles, all the bells, stuff like that. It won't have these pads at the side for sound effects, but, I've got a Stream Deck, and the software I use can program sound, and I can just program it in there. So I don't need those pads at the side. So if you're paying all that much money for these pads, also what annoys me is with things like the Stream Deck, which is a little controller, which is a little box with buttons on that I use to control this show, and I programmed each of these buttons for different things, sound effects, cutting scenes, whatever. Each one of these little buttons is a little screen, and that one's not doing it, but you can. It's a little. You don't have to put a little bit of paper in or anything like the old school days. That's a little screen, and you digitally tell what that button does. These are just coloured lights. So you have a bit of paper, or you can write on those buttons, or you do something. So you can't. If you're spending £550 on something, I want those little pads to be little LED screens like a Stream Deck.
Exactly.
That you don't have to put a little bit of paper or a post-it note next to it, or a sticky tape to say this is applause, this is jingle 1, this is jingle 2. So I'm thinking that's a lot of money for something that this is a lovely fancy touch screen. This thing here, but there's these buttons down the side. So I've got issues with it, and these are all silly sort of superficial issues. But it's a lot of money for what it is. When
it's
I
a lot
know
of money,
I could just upgrade this Zoom recorder for something that's much, much cheaper. A little portable sound desk would be probably a bit more. I don't know. What they do say is these have got really good preamps, and if you've got a Rode microphone, you plug into there, you go into the menu at the top, you select that. All the Rode microphones are pre-built in. It'll set it to the perfect thing. So if you've got a microphone like yours there, it'll sound beautiful, sound this kind of thing like this radio voice.
Like Kelsey Grammer in Frasier. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's very tempting. I'm sure I'll get one at some point, but I've got to fight the urge to spend more than double the amount of money on something that actually will do that actually this thing I've already got is already doing. But, you can hear me. You can hear me perfectly well. Sure, my voice could sound much more beautiful. And that would sound better, and combined with a decent mic like you've got there, and I've got a decent mic, but it's a shotgun mic. It's not one of those radio DJ mics. So, I'm very, very tempted. It looked very, very cool, and that's part of our problem. It'll look cool on the setup here.
I know.
It'll allow me to do other things, but I don't need it. I don't need all the features of it. I can do everything that it can do without it, but it might, just maybe not as perfect. So, we've been going for 29 minutes. This is crazy.
I know. We could talk all night. I know. When it comes to kit,
I try to keep these shows to like half an hour, but that ain't going to happen. Have you got another one, Steve?
Do you want to go on to the third one? I have got another one.
Yeah, let's do one more.
Like you.
Let's do one more each, but keep it more brief.
One more anyway, so that's fine. Yeah, I like you. I've kept mine linked to the previous one at least, and we've both Julian and I own Ronin. Is it a Ronin S? I could never.
Ronin S.
It's another the handheld gimbal that came out recently. That everybody is using, and yes, they are amazing. They do work really well, but nobody ever really talks about the shortcomings of them. And for me, the shortcomings of them are the focusing side of things. Now, you can kind of try and walk around and focus on the fly, or you can do the thing where you keep the focal length fixed and you get your actor or your subject to stay the right distance away. But in an ideal world, you'll be focusing as you go. To help with that, we went out and bought wireless follow focus, which really is a great piece of kit. It's a fairly inexpensive, what's it called? Like a nuclear, and a nuclear set is behind me there.
Yeah.
A nucleus nano, and it's a great piece of kit. I never regretted buying that because it's amazing for the price. But then there's this other thing that I keep hankering after, and that is to be able to, because I think gimbals only really work if you're in at least a team of two. If you're on your own, I don't think first of all, you've got the balancing and the craziness with the balancing whilst having other things to set up. So you need to be in a team of two, I think. Then if you're in a team of two, the person following behind can use the wireless follow focus to focus on the subject that you're focusing on. And you can even pull focus and do really clever things. But that person has to be hanging on your shoulder and looking at the monitor that you're looking at when you're composing the shot. So the solution for that for me has always been something like a wireless video transmitter.
Oh, you're going to say the one I want as well. Go on.
It's the Came TV Crystal 800 wireless HD video transmitter. So Came TV Crystal 800 meter wireless HD video transmitter.
Okay.
I've got one up here in front of me on Digi Broadcast, and for me the price, it's £345, and for that functionality, for me, if it works the way it says it does, that is great value for money. And again, all these things for me are pointing towards me using kit that I already own, but am not using to its full capacity. So if I had this thing, there you go. Is that it there? That's the Came TV one. Yeah. So you obviously have one end plugged into the camera, mounted to the Ronin at one end, and you have your focus puller behind you with another monitor with a receiver, basically being able to be at least, according to this, 800 meters away and focusing to his heart's content and getting the shot. That for me would make the whole gimbal thing that I have more usable. And it's just a funky piece of kit. It's so cool.
Yeah, I've got one on my Amazon wish list, but it's not that make. And there's a whole new
Came TV do some really good low cost versions of some really expensive things. I think they had a thing. You might have seen them linked to your drone. Maybe I think Came TV do a really good. What they call it when you're controlling it with the goggles on and you've got the drone flying around. FPV or something, I can't remember.
Oh, right, yeah. You see, these things here are the ones I've got on my wish list, which are the sort of new ones that are out, which are the Holly...
Oh, okay.
The Hollyland have brought out a whole load of stuff, and they're similar price, I think. So that looked like it was, again, 500 and something pounds. I don't know what the pros and cons. It seems to have SDI and HDMI out and all this tech stuff. But, that's £516. So there's numerous versions. They're getting cheaper and cheaper.
They are. This is the thing. And looking at the Came TV one, it's obviously you can use it in a traditional way. You have the receiver on the camera end, and you have the transmitter on the camera end, and the receiver at the other end with a monitor. But also, apparently, the transmitter creates its own Wi-Fi. So you could, in theory, your second monitor could be an iPad or an iPhone.
Yeah.
If you use the app.
They tend to do that.
Yeah, so that would also be it.
Well, that's something that I'm not that wasn't on my list to talk about today, but it's certainly one of those on my wish list, because again, when we do this, and I do a certain amount of filming stuff, as you do, Steve, like filming shows or something where you want to place a camera over there and you want to place a camera here, and at the moment we've been doing some live streaming of shows because of the whole pandemic thing.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's just like, all the cameras are fairly close to me because they're all wired up, and if there's people, whatever, or a bit of an audience. So having something like that on a camera, and I can then get a camera closer to the stage and with Wi-Fi. I mean, there's an issue with latency, I think. I think this Hollyland one has got, if it's a fairly wide shot and it's not a big close-up of the person's face, but you can see their lips moving. It's a wide shot, you can probably get away with it if you're cutting to it just for a bit. But there is a little bit of latency. So you use it as actually sending a remote camera back to your base station to cut in. So what we're doing here, I could have a camera up over there and the whatever. So good fun. Again, 500 quid or so. It's like, if I was using all that a lot more, I'd definitely get one or two of those, because it'd just be part of the work thing and you'd need to place those cameras around. I'd be worried about reliability if you're relying on it. But then if you've got another camera to cut to, you've got a backup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think with what you're talking about, definitely reliability.
Yeah.
For me, the
just a
specific
monitoring.
job, again, yeah, for me, it's thinking of this job that I've got coming up where we're going to use the gimbal, and it would be good for the director to be kind of somewhere else and be able to either be just checking the shot or maybe doing a bit of focusing. The latency thing would be an issue with focusing, but I guess you could if you rehearsed enough and you get a chance on narrative film to rehearse and get it right.
I think it's very slight, so again, it might be fine for focusing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we've got to crack on. Okay, I think my next one is linked to the Rodecaster Pro, because without that, and with the Rodecaster Pro, you then want a really nice microphone. And I've had my eye on the microphone Steve's got peeking up there, just if you can see out of focus at the front. Point to your mic, which is a Rode mic. And so I've had that on my list. Again, my microphone I use for all this stuff is a shotgun up here, which sounds nice and stuff, but it doesn't have that quality of that really sort of deep bassy sound that sort of really adds to the production. So there you go. That's Steve's one there. And so I had my eye on a microphone like that, which would be a nice companion to the Rodecaster Pro. But then actually, having done some research, that's a lot of people are going for this mic, which is the Rode Pod mic, which is a similar thing. It's cheaper, which pleases me much more. But I think Steve's won a kit of that, and with the pop guard and the bit that goes around it, the buffer thing, is about $150. This is like £99, and apparently this is better if you're not in a studio setting or a really sound controlled studio setting. So they're saying one's a condenser and one's a dynamic mic. And again, I don't want to get into the details of all those things, but apparently yours, Steve, is better if you're in it's a very good studio mic, they're saying. If you've got a controlled environment without any excess noise, proper sound booth, whatever, anything like that, that's a great mic, but that will pick up more sound outside. Whereas this mic here, it's cheaper. It pretty much does the same thing for my purposes. I'm not going to be, I'm not recording, I don't need to record some pop star singing, it's not, we're just doing YouTube stuff. But so this would apparently do the job, and this is much better. It will cut out a lot of background noise. If there's a bit of traffic you can hear from the window over there and stuff.
This directional,
a bit more direction, I think, a bit more. Yeah. That one you speak to the front of. Your one's like this. This one's a bit more you speak to the end of. So. And they're just different. One's phantom powered, one isn't phantom powered. One has to be powered, which isn't a problem because all our mixers and stuff can provide phantom powered. But exactly. So actually, this is £50 cheaper, which then paves the way for a nice Rode boom arm to clip it to, which is another 60 something quid. Which you need one of those things that clip to your desk and hang on to it, and then you can move it around and position it. And as we found when we were setting this up, that can be a little bit of a pain if you're trying to position your microphone.
This seems like a no-brainer to me, mate. It's
shut up.
It does everything. It does everything that you need.
Like Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm Steve's sponsor and Steve's my sponsor, and we're both really bad at it. We're really bad at it because as soon as we find something, the other person goes, "Yeah, go for it. It looks like a really good idea." I mean that little setup there, that my list there together. That's the 550 quid throw plus another 100, 650 plus the stand, another 60, 70 quid. You're suddenly talking the best part of $1,000 nearly, aren't you? 800 quid or something. And that's not even the Mac Mini. So it's all stuff. It's all stuff that I don't need to spend that money on right now when we're in the middle of a pandemic and money's tight. So but it's fun to dream about that. And I'm sure next time you see us on this channel, I'll suddenly have a really cool, sexy mic hanging here,
and I'll be standing there with my easy rig, the Ronin.
You'll be filming on the move, jogging down the road. Hi,
follow me. I know.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's only a matter of time with the Mac Mini in it.
Well, certainly that. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that would be a piece of kit that both you and I would get probably a fair deal of use out of. A computer, you just always use a computer, don't you? It's a backup. If I had that, then this laptop will become a backup if anything goes wrong. You've got redundancy, and when you use stuff in any kind of professional way, so this YouTube thing aside, you need backup. You can't have things going wrong, so it's good to have that stuff. But and that is Max. But I need a new camera, I need a new stills camera, I need a new video camera, blah, blah, blah. As you could be spending
we haven't even
tens
talked
of
about
thousands
cameras.
of pounds.
Yeah, no. I could easily have kind of sat here and talked about the 3 or 4 cameras that I'm agonising about buying. and the associated kit and lenses. Oh my God, lenses all day long. But I think we just accept that kind of outlay is a big investment, and it really takes a lot of thought. So
absolutely,
and they keep changing daily. You make the decision today to buy this particular camera, and then tomorrow there'll be a 34K equivalent for half the price. So why do I do it to myself?
It's crazy, and and I'm sure perhaps this wishlist 2021 is just a part one, and we do a part two. I didn't realise this would go on 40 minutes, but we'd do a part two with other stuff if people are interested. Let us know in the comments if you're interested in us just whittering on about stuff we'd like to have. I mean, I don't see this Creative Kit show being this thing. I think what we're going to do is either together talk about a piece of kit, or perhaps Steve will film one, I'll film one, and we look at a piece of kit that perhaps we use or want, and less go into the technical, more go into the how we'd use it and what it will enable us to do creatively, with a little bit of looking at the actual object, obviously, and how it works. But not, there are review channels for like the Rodecaster Pro. You can go and find those, and they'll go into great detail testing it out and all the buttons. I'm not interested in going on all of that on this channel, really. Maybe to a certain extent, a little bit. But how do you use them? What do you get? What end result do you get out of them? How will it help you produce more creative content?
Yeah. Exactly. So, it's been fun talking about this, though. As usual, I think that's probably what we spend most of our time talking about. And
I was looking forward to this episode.
I'm not at all surprised it's 41 minutes. I think we can go on for an hour and 41 minutes.
Well, as we say, this is still MindSpuke Beta. This is us finding our feet. We will get more concise with our shows, try and talk, learn the skill of moving on, saying what you've got and move on. Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks for watching, ladies and gents. And let us know in the comments if you've enjoyed this kind of thing, and tell all your friends, because subscribe, because we need subscribers. It's a new channel, and it makes us do more of this. And come back soon. We've got more, hopefully, creatively speaking shows, creative kit shows, creative therapy shows. We've got another creative therapy Steve and I are going to be filming very soon. So fun stuff.
Fun times.
Goodbye.
See ya.